Hello, it's Ellie. Hello, everybody. So, I came across Rainbow Factory just a couple days ago, and I think I'm going to read it for you guys. I'm not going to do it all in one reading, but I'm going to do about 3 pages of it. So, yeah, let's get started. Let me read the warning first, and so, yeah. A few things to consider. 1. This is what I like to call a glue flick. Glue flick. Wow, I'm terrible. Glue fic. It's pretty grid mark, which means it contains blood and violence and swearing. 2. I'd like to thank the countless people who helped me review the story and get it ready for public viewing, especially Autumn Wind, Craig Elkin from Pony-chan, and Super Kid from YouTube. 3. It's based off the song Rainbow Factory by Wooden Toaster. Go search for it on YouTube and have a listen before reading this fiction. I realize that A, it's awesome, and B, it's 20% spookular. Yes, 20% spookular than most other things you've listened to. Finally, thank you to Evil Doctor and Flight Warrior for letting me use their pictures, and Equestrian Study for editing it. And with that, my story begins. Rainbow Factory by Aurora Dawn. So, crap. I clicked something. Alright, here we go. Rainbow Factory by Aurora Dawn. There's long been rumors as to how exactly rainbows are made in Equestria. While a great amount of Pegasi ponies are employed in the rainbow department of the Weather Factory, all of them do the low-end work. What's known is that the great streams of spectra, the individual colors of the rainbow, flow through large grates into vast vats. From there, workers carefully and equally mix the spectra into coagulated rainbow pools that dot and run throughout the factory and surrounding city. Next, the mixture is pumped into the floor below, where other employees atomize it and store it until the active weather Pegasi deploy it in the field. However, no one knows how individual spectra is made. Supplies are never seen being brought in, leaving not even a clue of what goes on into a rainbow. Tourists, when visiting the factory, are treated to an extremely foreboding and plain wall, with massive solid doors barring entry to any pony at any time. While most of the facility's various signs and architecture is bubbly and welcoming, the Rainbow Factory's upper floor was protected by harsh imagery of potential hazards and death, and the cloud wall was not made out of the clean white of the rest of the city, but of a black, quietly thundering fog. To become an employee of the Upper Rainbow Factory meant sacrificing any life outside those black walls. Workers are sworn into secrecy and forbidden from leaving and live inside the facility itself. Those few who have ever managed to make it out not in a body bag were twisted and disturbed, too damaged to ever bring themselves to talk about it. A lot of theories were proposed. Dark magic from captured unicorns, chemicals and environmental hazards that no sane pony would tolerate, and even thoughts of an unknown sister of Celestia's, destined to create the spectra that have raised the sun and moon. None of them could be farther from the truth. Easy once you get to know it with the help of the magic of the Pegasus device. Come on, Orion, we're gonna be late for our final test, Scootaloo called to a friend of hers. She was older now, in her last year of flight school. She, like all other Pegasus in the school, was terribly nervous of the final test. Those that passed were granted freedom into the world to find their cutie marks, if they haven't yet, and to become working ponies. A little known, or at least little thought of about fact, was what happened to the fillies that failed their test. While uncommon, 1 or 2 from every class generally didn't have it in them to perform the rigorous acts and maneuvers. Those that failed their test were looked down upon in the worst of ways, shunned and hated. Cloudsdale is always bred from a form of nationalism amongst its occupants. If you weren't the best, or didn't show the potential of being the greatest, you weren't allowed to be part of the glorious collective. Scootaloo moved a little to the side as Orion, a tall, yet fairly skinny pony, settled next to her. He fluffed his light brown feathers and gave a worried attempt at a smile as he stared around where he sat. They were sitting in the large, open waiting room overlooking the Coliseum. With all the other graduating Pegasi, just visible in the distance was the Rainbow Factory. Orion glanced at it and gulped. "What's the matter, Orion? You afraid of getting a dead-end job on the snow line?" Orion chuckled a bit and then closed his eyes and said, "No, it's just, I don't know. I don't think I can do this. What if I fail? What if I don't fail, but do just enough to still be disliked by everybody? I don't know if I can take being deported. Where would we even go anyways?" Scootaloo gave Orion a friendly punch. "No one knows, you dolt, and we're not going to fail. Everyone here is going to be fine. I know I will at least pass," she laughed. "Thanks to the tips from Rainbow Dash, I'm sure to be fine." "Oh yeah, sure, that reassures me. That's actually just as, if not even more reassuring, than the psychopathic hate everyone here seems to love to spread." "Quit panicking, Scaredy Wings," Scootaloo replied. "The only one here I think even might fail is that yellow pony with a dark green mane. She's the one who was sick out for that month, you know." "Oh yeah." Orion remembered as he craned his head into the other pony's direction. "The one who had that bad case of whooping wing. She looks pretty confident, though." "I suppose we'll see," Scootaloo trailed, turning to look at the factory herself. It gave her chills, not of fear, but pride. "I hope we get some cool, active weather job. Can you imagine? Every pony in Ponyville or Philadelphia staring up at me going, 'There goes Scootaloo, such an amazing flyer, and from Cloudsdale, there can be no doubt.'" She smiled in excitement, forgetting her tension for the moment. "That would be something, I'll admit. Mind you, just coming from Cloudsdale, who wouldn't be in awe?" "Exactly. Praise the flock, praise the flock." Places, every... Wait, I'm gonna do a different voice. Places, every pony. A massive buff Pegasus walked towards the entrance to the Coliseum. "We're going to do this by name. Your adjudicators on the east side of the field. Do not, I repeat, do not fly too far west. If they lose sight of you for any reason, you will be failed. Immediately. Take deep breaths, stretch your wings for one last time. The test will consist of 3 sections: weather clearing, agility, and finally recovery. Clear the clouds, fly through the hoops, and then fly to the marked elevation. Close your wings for at least 3 seconds. Any less, you'll fail. But keep in mind there's no extra points for extra seconds. Finally, recover before you fail. Recover before you fail. Recover before you hit the cloud floor. Understood? Any questions?" The instructor paused, and carefully glanced at every single pony in the room. Everyone's eyes were completely focused on him, and none were creased with confusion. Sorry about that, I had a yawn. "Alright, Aurora Dawn, you're up first. Clear, fly, fall, complete." The yellow pony nodded and walked quickly up to the starting ramp with purpose. She stared at the watching judges, waited for a nod from all 3, and then took off with powerful force. The ramp bounced slightly from the force of the takeoff. Every pony watched as Aurora quickly reached the starting altitude, and then began a direct and purposeful attack on the positioned clouds. With expert timing and intelligent angles, the sky was soon empty of any moisture. Scootaloo and Orion watched with open mouths as they watched the first testee pull fast and tight turns, expertly shooting dead center through each and every hoop. Finally, Aurora pulled herself up to the proper altitude, hovered, and closed her wings. I almost said closed her eyes, and closed her wings. The group of students gasped as she started plummeting down towards the clouds, and counted breathlessly. 1, 2, 3. They sighed as they watched her wings open in the correct amount of time, collectively holding that relief. Suddenly, Aurora's wings whipped upwards, and the group of students flinched in horror as they all heard the loud, hollow snap. Oh, sorry, I lost myself. Only to be suddenly replaced by an unending, piercing scream. Many, like Orion, shielded their eyes with their wings, and others, like Scootaloo, could only watch, terrified, as the blur of green, yellow, green, and red plummeted into the cloud with a dull thump. Wasting no time, the instructor walked forwards again, as the 3 judges simply pointed downwards, and started shuffling papers around, speaking loudly as if nothing had happened. He called out again, "Daisy Fields, clear, fly, fall, complete." Scootaloo and Orion stared slack-jawed as another pony gulped, and walked forwards onto the path and took off. They turned back to the tuft of cloud where Aurora landed and stared, as the wind blew the fragments of that were thrown up that were thrown up from the collision way, they saw the shivering yellow body attempt to move, only to collapse with a cry. Faraday spots! Clear, fly, fall, complete. Aurora still struggled to walk, wailing with every step. Her legs weren't broken, she could use them fine, but it was obvious the pain from her wing joints and the loss of her potential life was crushing her. Scootaloo felt Orion shuffle uneasily, tears welling in his eyes, as a frown formed on his face. Holiday shine, clear, fly, fall, complete. No one's coming to help her, Orion seethed through closed teeth. Scootaloo felt extremely sad for the yellow Pegasus, but couldn't see herself helping her. She would be failed herself and sent far away from Cloudsdale and any familiar place on Equestria, to a place where she and any other failed student would never stain Cloudsdale's reputation. It was a terrible shame. But Scootaloo couldn't fail herself. She couldn't fail her friends, and she definitely couldn't fail Rainbow Dash. Not after the care and help she had given her Scootaloo's whole life. Scootaloo blinked the tears from her eyes and forced herself to watch the competing students. One after another took off, successfully passed the test, and flew to the east gate under the judge's spot in the stands. That's all Scootaloo focused on. Pass the test, fly to the gate, live a happy life. Orion Solstice, clear, fly, full, complete. No. What? What? The instructor took a step back, one leg left raised in the air. You can't just refuse your flight test. Get out there before you piss the judges off. No. Don't even pretend you care about my future if you don't care about hers, Orion defied, unsure about himself. You say you want me to get a good life, and yet you let those that fail suffer unbearable pain? Get the fuck onto that field before I fail you myself, the instructor shouted menacingly. The voice just doesn't do the whole menacing thing. Alright, I'm gonna try something else. Get the fuck onto that field before I fail you myself. Yeah, that works. The instructor shouted menacingly. Wow. The instructor shouted menacingly. Fine. Orion spoke sharply before walking into the ramp. Onto the ramp, not into. However, he stared at the judges, waiting for the individual nods, and the second they came, he took off. However, long before the starting altitude, he turned sharply and landed gently next to Aurora. She turned and looked at him, blood running down her forehead and sides, and tears streaming down her face. What are you doing? You'll fail, like me. You'll be exiled. I'd rather be exiled from a place that treats ponies like this than live my life while others don't live theirs. Aurora smiled, happiness briefly replacing her sadness in her blackened, puffy eyes, until she stumbled again and intense pain flashed across her body. Orion leaned in close, using his wings to brace the yellow pony against himself. He stared up at the judges, beaming hit with his vision. They all stared down, unaffected, and simply pointed down, before looking back towards the ramp for the next contestant. Alright, I'm going to end part 1 here. If you liked it, then leave a like, maybe subscribe, and yeah. I'm going to put up part 2 as soon as I read it. So, alright, leave a like, favorite, all that stuff. Subscribe! Thanks everybody, bye!